This week I wanted to discuss manipulative friends. We've all experienced them at some point in our lives, and it's so difficult to spot these people because they come packaged so nicely. They present themselves as the best friend that you were waiting for. They do everything for you, they put you on a pedestal and make you feel great until the manipulation starts. And by that point, you're hooked. It's too late. You've told them everything, you've opened up to them, you've made yourself vulnerable, you count them as a best friend, and now you feel different and they're stabbing you in the back. So this is why I wanted to discuss this today. It's important for us to spot these people, figure them out, keep an eye out, and protect ourselves. If you haven't been to my page before, welcome back. I look at personal development as well as mental and emotional well-being and day-to-day issues. Please do subscribe to my channel and keep up with my content. So this week, discussing manipulative friendships. I myself have experienced this a few times, and even though I've been through it, I still tend to fall victim to this because as a good person, generally you tend to give people the benefit of the doubt. So you can't base one bad friendship, you can't base all the people you meet and want to be friends with on one bad experience. But there are certain signs that you can look out for that I've learned now, finally, to protect yourself and watch out for a manipulator, because they display these signs and it's usually a pattern and they're usually quite similar in behavior to each other. Let's say you've dealt with a few manipulators, it's really easy for you to see. But if you haven't, you can still watch out for these signs and it'll help you figure out if someone's being a manipulator in your life, a friend, let's say. However, having said this, not always everybody's manipulating you. Let's say a parent wants you to do something and they use certain of phrases that I'm going to discuss now. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're manipulating you in a bad way. Or sometimes friends may do this out of a good place to try and bring you away from something bad, to protect you, so they may use or say certain things to just put it into perspective. So it's about using your initiative and just seeing a pattern. And if all of these things are combined, are happening over a period of time at different points, then you're probably dealing with a manipulator and there isn't good intention behind what they're doing. These manipulators come about from usually growing up in a household where the dynamic of the parents or siblings was more of a sort of very manipulative, narcissistic person and more of a people pleaser, codependent person. Now, let's say if the mother was very manipulative and the dad was quite codependent, so she knew that if she pushed and pushed and if she manipulated the situation, she was going to get it her way. And the dad would give in eventually. So this person probably witnessed this, or with a sibling even, growing up. Therefore, they know that by pushing and by guilt tripping and using certain tactics, they will most probably get it their way. And the issue with this is that their life or the way they see things is a constant game. Even the friendship that they are with you is like a power dynamic. It's a constant battle that, oh, I win if I do this, or they win if they do this. So it's very disingenuous. And it's all about the power. And even if they're being complimentary, putting you on a pedestal, is so that they make themselves the victim. And so you're then you feel guilty for being better than them, if that's what they're claiming. You feel bad and you're like, no, it's not like that. You're amazing, you're great, you're like this. And so the power is kind of given back to them in a backhanded way. So they're always, whatever they're doing, it's never for you. It's what in the end will benefit them. So we need to spot these signs. And the first one is that their egos are extremely fragile. So they're very insecure people. So like I said, they love playing the victim. And that's first sign of them manipulating your emotions. When they're constantly the victim, you constantly have to do things for them, look out for them. They're always innocent. It's never their fault. So playing the victim is the first sign. The second thing is that no matter what you discuss, what issues you had a bad day at work, whatever that may be, they tend to downplay you and give their experience of it or their account of how they dealt with that. So they tend to, but it's done in a very snidey way. It's never directly. It's like, yeah, well, all right for some, because at least your situation was not that major, but me, this is what happened to me and I dealt with it. So it's like, yeah, you're good, but you're not good enough because I dealt with it much better. Again, the victimhood comes into play here too. The next thing is that they always put you on, like I said, a pedestal. So you're always the one in power. Oh, but you're so great at making plans, so you should always make the plans. Yeah, but you know all the cool places. It's always down to you. And you're always the one that has to organize, arrange, and you're so amazing, you're so great, you should make all the decisions in this friendship, and you plan it. Two things happen. If they don't like what you've planned, you're then made to feel very guilty. And it's like, oh, I did this for you. You chose to do this. Oh, it didn't turn out that great. Well, you wanted to do this. So it's, again, they don't want to take responsibility because then they can blame you for it. And the second thing is that it's a lot of pressure, it's a lot of weight on one person to carry. So that power dynamic, although you might feel like, oh, they're amazing, they're putting me on a pedestal and they're always doing what I want to do, it's in a way a form of manipulation because it's constantly on your head. So it needs to change, and they also need to take responsibility and make plans and share that, because friendship and relationships they need to be balanced for it to be healthy. So if it's always a one-way thing and they're always the victim, then you're left to pull the entire weight of the relationship and the emotional ups and downs that it comes with. The next thing is that they can't take any criticism at all. So let's say you've kind of noticed that they do these things, or you don't necessarily always want to be making the decisions, or you're calling them out and playing the victim. The minute you give this person criticism, game over. They're going to throw their toys out of the pram. That very childlike behavior, like I said, that they've witnessed growing up, that I'm going to kick and scream and shout and cry until I get it my way, comes into play. So the minute, again, with the very fragile ego, if you say no to this person or you don't do something for them, oh, I would never do that to you. I'd never say no. Oh my God, if you don't do this for me, then how am I going to deal with this without you? I was counting on you. So it's the guilt tripping. You can never say no, ever. They will turn that on you. And if you criticize them, then it's a full-on fight. No form of criticism, regardless of how you deliver it to them, they can take, because it boils down to their fragile ego. If you call out them doing something wrong, you are outright at war with them. And then they would turn around and trying to play the victim by screaming and shouting and crying and getting hysterical, possibly sometimes violent, depends on the person, breaking things, storming out, things like that. So if that, or just like getting very angry, very defensive, very offended that you're asking them these questions, how dare they? That you're just thrown back. You're just like thrown off by their reaction, and you kind of eat your words. So what happens to this when they react like that to any form of criticism, and regardless of how you say it to them, it's your fault, you end up eating up your words and tolerating it and kind of feeling very resentful and miserable. So you have to learn a couple tips to deal with this. With a manipulator, like I said, no matter how you deliver your message, you could say it in a jokey way, very nicely, explain it to them, tell them it hurts you, it will still be taken in a bad way, and it's still your fault for the way you said it. How dare you say it that way? You really offended me, because straight away they want to be the victim, so they're going to find anything they can to make it your fault. Remember that. So if you're dealing with a friend like this and you're fed up and you're just emotionally drained, then there are certain things that you can do to avoid falling into situations like this in the future, and also just dealing with the one you're in currently. The first thing I'd say, as much as it sounds like faff, loving yourself and knowing yourself well is a great form of protection, because you won't fall victim to manipulation. When you know what you want, what you don't want, your likes and dislikes, it's very hard for someone to come along and make you do something that doesn't feel right with you, or you authentically know that this isn't good for the grand scheme of things. You might compromise in certain situations, but if something genuinely is like, no, actually, I don't agree with that, I'm not going to do it, or I'm sorry, I'm exhausted today, I would love to help you, but I just cannot do this today, let's touch base and figure out a day that works for both of us. You could do that when you prioritize yourself and put yourself first. So loving yourself and knowing yourself well will really help you deal with manipulators. So when you know what you want, what you don't want, then it's okay to say no, and it's okay to put yourself first and not always give in to the manipulation. When you say no, the backlash is gonna follow. And if the backlash follows, it's okay. You have to stand your ground. That would be my advice for your second step. Doesn't matter what they say to you or try and turn on you. If someone truly loves you and respects you and understands you, it will never turn into this. It might be a conversation so that everybody's on the same page, and then you can move on and it's not held against you. But if the person is very offended and makes you feel really bad and it's a massive fight and you're made to feel super guilty, then be glad that you're seeing that person's true colors the one time or the first time you can't do something for them. Be thankful that they're showing you who they really are, and that this friendship for them is only about what you could do for them and not the mutual support that you thought it was. So when that happens and they show themselves to you, accept and understand that and see that this isn't about you, this is about how they can take rejection and what they expect from you at all times. So try and stand your ground when the backlash comes your way. Also, like I said, with manipulators, when you do criticize them or do have a problem with anything, they will try and bully you out of thinking that way and try and flip it on you. So again, by standing your ground and knowing what you don't like and you've experienced or you've witnessed and you want to call them out on it, they'll try and turn you or take the argument somewhere totally different and start disrespecting your character, who you are. Don't let that take away from the problem and where and what your issue is that you want to discuss, and be like, okay, we can discuss my character at some other point, but right now I feel that in this friendship this is what's going on and I'm not happy with it. Try using language of I feel like this, so it's about you and your feelings, not you did this, you did that, and I feel upset. No, it's like I feel a little bit disappointed or a little bit upset because this is what happened. So instead of pointing the finger at them, you're taking ownership and responsibility for your feelings, which they can't then dismiss, because if you feel this way, they can't discredit that. So try using that sort of language to get your point across and stand your ground in what you're saying. And lastly, have patience, because when you bring changes and set boundaries with people, not everybody can accept that or likes that change. And it doesn't mean that everybody's a manipulator and hates you for it. Change is never easy. So if you've had friendships in a certain way for a long time and you suddenly change the dynamic a little bit, they may not necessarily like that, but they might get used to it and respect it, and they might not. And if you see that someone's really giving you a hard time because you've brought certain changes and brought certain boundaries and you're trying to break their manipulation cycle, then you should really get out of that friendship, because they're not there for you at all. And if you see that they're bad influence and they're making you feel bad at all times, then it's best to walk away, because certain manipulators will just not learn. They're just looking for their next victim. And you don't want to be that person. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Please do share it with someone who might find this helpful, or you feel like they're surrounded by some very manipulative friends. Please like and comment on this, and subscribe to my page. I will see you guys again here next week. And if you have any video suggestions for me, any topics you'd like me to cover, please do write them in the comments below, because I always want to create content that's helpful to you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you here again soon. Mwah.